This is a masterpiece among Minecraft horror maps. It's definitely a map worthy of being called legendary. If you mention a horror map that everyone knows and loves, a lot of people will immediately think of Till Death Do Us Part. That map became a sensation in China thanks to its excellent storyline and terrifying textures, but today, we're playing a top-tier map from overseas. Back in the days when horror maps mostly relied on scary textures to frighten players, this map stood out with its outstanding models and mind-bending storyline. The studio behind it is also incredible. They only released 2 maps in total, but both are absolute blockbusters. And today, we're talking about this map called Later, which translates to Too Late. Lately, I've received quite a few requests to cover this map. Some people have even been urging me for several months. So since that's the case, here it is today. Hey everyone, this is Hey by Kuin, your not so famous Minecraft commentator. I post here pretty regularly, so if you like my content, go ahead and hit that free follow button. It would mean the world to me. And one more important thing, my eyes are not a mouth. Now, let me take you back to Too Late to Remember. The game is version 1.12.2, and as soon as you open the map, the visuals immediately catch your eye. The horror game vibe just hits you right away. The smoky background behind the central text and the eerie music all make it clear that this map has abandoned the traditional map start screen. The left click to start game prompt, which often appears in horror games, makes this map feel even more like a standalone game. With the sound of a few keystrokes, the protagonist appears in front of a typewriter, recording something. But as a strange noise rings out, the man who is working intently suddenly sits up. And that's when our game officially begins. The surroundings give off a vibe that's not modern at all. The decorations, the forest outside the window, all of it suggests the setting is the 19th century. Why is the protagonist typing here? No clues, like the opening up to the moon, leaving you with no idea what might happen next. Pushing open the door, the animation is fantastic. Outside is a classical corridor, exuding wealth. With no other paths, we're left with no choice but to keep moving along this hallway. Continuing to explore, there's only one staircase, but in the very next moment. The protagonist wakes up in bed. It turns out everything was just a dream. And next, we're about to witness the most stunning opening animation in a Minecraft horror map. From eating to arriving at the company, every detail in each scene is crafted with incredible finesse. Even the fluffiness of the protagonist's hair before combing, these easily overlooked details were all created by the author. Arriving at the company, we also learn that the protagonist is just an ordinary office worker. Inside the company, we can see some other employees, and what's surprising is that almost every employee here is dialogue.
Good morning, Mr. Goodman. Mr. Kruger is waiting.
Good morning, Houghton. I'm on my way. Shoot, I forgot my badge. Can you help me out?
Don't worry. I'm sure the janitor will let you into the offices. I'll just have to wake him up first.
From the conversation at the front desk, we learn that the main character's name is Thomas Goodman. His boss is waiting for him upstairs, but he forgot to bring his badge. The player is also given a hint. Just wake up the doorman, and he'll let us go up. I have to say, the only unfortunate thing about this map is that it doesn't have a touch feature. The main character comes to the janitor, and surprisingly, even at his age, he's able to sleep standing up. We take the opportunity to wake him, and he opens the door behind him for us. Of course, before moving forward and being cautious, we could also take some time to explore the current floor we're on. A lot of the details inside the company are done really well, and you can even find some Easter eggs. If you look out the window, you'll notice that all the cars on the road are moving, but they're all driverless. What's most impressive here are the NPCs. Each one has their own unique look. Some have heavy dark circles under their eyes, and some are just sitting there, fast asleep. There are 2 people playing Minecraft cards, and another 2 discussing something about a haunted manor. This must be related to the map somehow. When we move the camera over to a bar counter, we can even spot a guy in his underwear. Oh my god, that's really creepy. Why isn't he out picking cotton? So something is definitely going to go wrong at this company later on. Anyway, all the employees here are glued to their coffee, which really highlights how this company must be squeezing its workers hard. That's a very useful clue. In short, there are still plenty of places to explore here, but I won't go into all of them. The main character also takes the elevator to other floors of the company. After taking the elevator, the protagonist arrives at an office area, where there are also lots of employees. Each of these employees has their own little office, and every detail is different. It kind of feels like a prison, really oppressive. We can also talk to them.
Oh, hello, Mr. Goodman.
We find someone called company employee, and in his room, there's a map hanging on the wall. It's from another work by the studio. Through the conversation, we learn that this person made a map of the company office area. If we want to escape the company, we can go to him. This is another very useful clue. Guess what I found? This female employee is actually wearing purple underneath. At the end of a corridor, we found the company boss.
Thomas, it's been half an hour. You better have that report I've asked you to get.
The report? The report. It's on my desk. I'll go grab it.
Late once again? Thomas! This cannot go on. If I don't have this report in the next hour, I won't mind replacing you. For your sake, I hope it's better than the last one.
The boss told Thomas to get the report, but Thomas hadn't printed it. As soon as he heard he was replaced, he rushed to his office. Thomas sat down, and something unexpected happened. What the fuck? That was some insane speed for falling asleep. And from this moment on, the calm of the first half of the map was over. We were about to face real terror. When we woke up, the place was already deserted, and it had gotten dark outside. Well, let's just take the elevator home then. But who would have thought? The elevator suddenly started shaking violently while it was running, and in the next moment, the shaking got even crazier. At this point, Thomas realized that danger was coming, but it was already too late. Luckily, the protagonist was still alive, but right in front of him was the old doorman lying on the ground, and he looked kind of dead. Looking around, there were several flesh-colored mannequins. Here, the author also plants a seed of doubt. When we fell, there was a flash of an image. If you pause, you can see it's a picture of the protagonist with red, upturned eyes. What could that mean? Pushing open the door, the outside looked completely different from during the day. Papers were scattered all over the floor, not employee working overtime, and the surroundings a mess. The silence made everything especially creepy. At this point, The protagonist needs their phone, meaning to use the security cameras. The protagonist didn't come to this floor during the day, so why did their phone end up here? Exploring this area, they walk into a conference room where the projector shows images looking like brain research. This is another suspicious point. As you play, many mysteries pile up, but we'll break them down later. On this floor, across from the elevator, we can enter the surveillance room and use the computer to check security footage. As we switch between camera feeds, we get a clear look at each area. Compared to the daytime, every part of the company now looks unusually messy. Even the tables and chairs are knocked over, as if the place has just been robbed. But when the protagonist checks a certain spot on the surveillance footage, something unclean appears in the company, though it's impossible to tell if the surrounding mess is related to supernatural events. The protagonist switches the camera feed again, and then spots a phone on one of the desks. Following the location shown on the surveillance, the protagonist heads out to retrieve the phone, but on the way, he once again sees the ghost from the footage. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to pose any threat to us at the moment. Eventually, the protagonist reaches the desk and grabs the phone. He immediately calls the police, but no one answers. He returns to the elevator, trying to escape, but it breaks down. His only option is to look for a ventilation duct. Right across from the elevator is the restroom, and a dirty place like this is the most likely spot to find a ventilation duct. But when the protagonist walks into the women's restroom to check, he unexpectedly runs into a ghost again. However, this ghost seems to be stuck in a sink, and what's more, it looks exactly like the protagonist. Leaving the women's restroom, he heads to the men's restroom next door, but doesn't find any clues inside. After stepping out, he discovers a ventilation duct right at the entrance between the two restrooms, a spot no one would have expected. Ventilation ducts are dangerous in horror maps, but fortunately, the creator of this map didn't set up any jump scares in the duct. Crawling ventilation duct, protagonist reaches restroom. Looking in mirror, his reflection suddenly explodes. We're still in the office area during the daytime. Remember someone mentioned earlier they drew a map of the office area? The protagonist wants to use the map to turn on the power system, but compared to the daytime, this area now feels even more bizarre. All the spots where employees used to be are now occupied by these flesh-colored mannequins. It seems like all the employees have been affected by some supernatural force. Only the protagonist remains normal. Finally, the protagonist finds that office, but the moment he opens the door, he runs right into a mannequin. The map is in its hand. This is all so mysterious that we have to assume this mannequin might actually be alive. The map marks the locations of 4 circuit breakers, and it looks like they need to be turned on in a specific order. The first circuit breaker is in the protagonist's office, but compared to how it looked during the day, there are some especially creepy things now. There's a terrifying doll on the desk, and some unknown liquid is oozing out of a cup. What could all this be hinting at? The second circuit breaker is at the entrance to the restroom. According to the map, the third circuit breaker is found in one of the employees' offices. When you turn on the third circuit breaker and step out, all mannequins outside have gathered at the entrance. They seem almost alive, staring intently at the protagonist. After activating all circuit breakers, surroundings become chaotic. An escape route opens, and mannequins vanish instantly. However, the lights on the ceiling are still out, and everything remains just as abnormal as before. As the protagonist prepares to escape through the ventilation duct, someone suddenly pushes him down the stairs. The scene shifts to a new office area, taking us back in time. The person who pushed us is the white-eyed protagonist we met earlier in the restroom. It seems the protagonist may have lost his mind. More important is to escape this terrifying place. We can spot a door that requires a key card to enter. Through the glass, we can also clearly see the room opposite this door. There's an ID card on the table. It looks like that's exactly what we need. But in a place as eerie as this, nothing is ever that simple. The protagonist picks up the ID card from the table and, sure enough, is able to use it to open the door and go inside. Inside is a storage room for files, but there are still other areas here that feel strangely unsettling. There are still many mannequins here, doing things only employees would do, as if they were real, living people. There's also a meeting room here that looks like a classroom, with mannequins operating inside, and you can even run into a mannequin of the old man. Let's bring our perspective back to the document storage room. A nearby window is broken, and the protagonist tries to jump out, but unfortunately the way is blocked, so you have to search for an exit in this maze-like file storage room. After walking here for quite a while, I didn't expect to encounter a huge pile of falling files along the way. It honestly feels a bit supernatural. If you linger even a little, the protagonist gets buried. At this point, you have to keep running, racing to the exit before the files bury you. There are also a lot of forks in the path, and if you take the wrong turn, you'll get buried too, but luckily, I'm pretty quick on my feet. Following the protagonist's lead, I chose to jump out the window. But instead of seeing a street outside, what appeared was the scene from level 1. The protagonist might have glitched into the afterlife, with trash bins all around. Stepping outside, there were some vehicles parked out front. Here's where it gets scary. The cars can actually be dodged. Looks like an intense chase scene is definitely in store. But as we kept moving forward, we ran into a ghost again, and the hardest part of the map arrived at this moment. At this point, players need to find the exit in this chaotic parking lot, all while being chased by ghosts. If you don't dodge in time, you'll die on the spot. But the darkness all around makes it impossible for players to see exactly where the ghosts are, so you have to hide under the cars to keep yourself safe. In this situation, even switching to third-person view doesn't help at all. After countless attempts, we finally got close to the exit. Even though victory was just one step away, escaping was still extremely difficult. After countless tries, we finally reached the safe zone, but here, one of the elevators was already out of order. Moving forward, we came across someone trapped under a car, so we rescued him as soon as we saw the situation.
Hey, man, are you okay?
Who would have thought there'd be another explosion? Taking advantage of the ghost not chasing us, we quickly pushed away the boxes blocking the emergency exit and escaped. After climbing countless flights of stairs, the protagonist still didn't make it out. In the end, he ended up on the rooftop. Standing on the rooftop, the protagonist started rambling like a madman, and that's where the map abruptly comes to an end.
I tried everything. He keeps following me. You can't get me. I'm not giving up. Do you hear me? I'm not giving up. Meaningless, you are meaningless, and meaningless like tonight is different. Don't do that. You can't stop me now. You can only I can. I can end it all. I can leave me alone.
Of course, there are other endings to this map as well, and to unlock those endings, you'll need to replay the map. We can try calling a friend at the phone booth, but after a few rings, no one picks up. Then, at the window in the file storage room, you can choose to stay put, or you can jump out. Either way, it doesn't have much impact on the ending. In the end, the protagonist gets buried under those files, but still ends up in the underground parking lot and rescues the person trapped under the car. The final scene of this ending shows several police cars parked below the rooftop, with police officers trying to calm the protagonist down.
Don't jump! Don't jump! Someone is going to help you.
After that, the protagonist is sent to prison, and the freedom he once had is gone forever. If earlier you chose to call the police and then jumped out the window, but in the end failed to rescue the person under the car, then in the final cutscene, you will definitely be pushed off by him. The protagonist also falls from the building and dies. If you neither called the police nor jumped out the window, and also failed to save the person under the car at the final location, you can still see those police officers on the rooftop, but in the end, you won't be sent to prison. Instead, you'll be committed to a mental hospital. To be honest, this mental hospital looks a bit like the one from Outlast. Of course, there are other ways to reach these endings. You just need to make different choices. So what is the real truth behind everything? First, we need to figure out why the protagonist is having such strange dreams. In his dreams, the protagonist's typewriter keeps working non-stop, and in reality, he's also constantly working. This shows just how much pressure he's under. Every morning when he wakes up, he sees the same scene, hears the same radio, takes the same bus to work, meets the same people at the office, says the same things, and tries really hard to put on a calm front. Yet every day, his work is exactly the same. No matter how hard he tries, he can't escape his boss's criticism and endless exploitation. This kind of boring and oppressive life has caused the protagonist to develop psychological problems. He feels like he's about to go insane. There are also related hints in the map, like the picture of a brain scene in the meeting room, as well as the protagonist with red eyes and the one with white eyes. This is similar to the protagonist developing a kind of inner demon, like a second personality, and this inner demon is completely unhinged. Why do we always end up in unrealistic scenes after every screen break? It's likely that all of this is the work of the inner demon. As for the dummies in the game, there are two explanations. One is that the protagonist, under the influence of the inner demon, sees living people. The other is that the protagonist has killed the people in the company. The ghosts that appear on the map might actually be living people, or they could be the police, who came to arrest the protagonist after he killed someone, and in the end, they catch him and lock him up. If the protagonist manages to overcome his inner demon, he'll be sent to prison. If he doesn't, he'll end up in a mental hospital. The protagonist rescuing the person trapped under the car suggests he has overcome his inner demon. He can stand on the rooftop and shout, or end up in prison. If the protagonist doesn't go insane, his colleagues might. For example, in these offices, you can even spot some toothbrushes, which shows that sometimes these people just sleep at the company. In comparison, isn't this map just a reflection of people like you, me, and everyone else in real life? In real life, there are definitely people who have gone crazy from work just like the protagonists, but even so, the exploiters still aren't thinking about stopping the exploitation. They're just looking for a brand new employee to keep squeezing. Workers use their hands as brushes and their sweat as ink, painting vibrant colors on the canvas of life. Their hard work is the most vivid interpretation of a better life. They could be any one of us, not just someone to be exploited at will. So that's the complete explanation of this map. Thank you for watching until the end. If you like what I said this week, give us a beautiful follow. That would be the biggest support for me. This is Hey by June, and I'll be updating this channel regularly. Also, there's something important I need to say at the end of the video. My eyes are not a pen mouth.